Hey again, everybody. So today I both want to talk about the quote that I just showed and just more on the idea of saying no and kind of tying that into, feeling what you want to feel or just feeling what you do feel and allowing yourself to. So to start off with a quote that what Nietzsche says about the, I guess, definition of freedom or personal freedom is the ability to say no, even when it may be dangerous to. And so I kind of want to talk about like when it is dangerous to and when it's not. And I think that a lot of people think that it's always dangerous to. That there is never a good time to say no, other than when it is something threatening or abusive or things like that, where it's very obvious that you should say no, right? But more in the sense of that you care so much about what the other person thinks that when something is asked of you, or if you want to do something, your kind of instinct is to say yes because you want to please that person and you want to, you want to seem like an accepting and good-hearted person in their eyes. So maybe rejecting that thing might sound mean or might damage the relationship with them in some way. And this is something definitely that I have struggled with a lot, that I feel like only recently I've really gotten my head around, of how to say no to things. And of course, there's very obvious things to say no to, right? When there's a person that you really don't want to spend time with, that you don't want to be around, or there's a place that you don't want to be, maybe you get a job and the environment is really toxic, you're not having a great time, and you get offered a different, better job, right? Of course, you're going to say no to that first one, right? You're going to quit that job. Same thing goes for what you're doing in school. You don't quite fit in and you want to try something else. You might say no to that. So there's a lot of things that with an educated response, that you know what you're in, that it's easy to reject and say no. But for things where we don't really know what the outcome is, we don't really know what the next thing might be, it's kind of left up to, should I say no? Is this a rejection of an opportunity that might benefit me? And things like that. But I am more so touching on the fact of when we say no, or say yes rather, to please somebody else, when it's not pleasing for us, when we only say yes because we want the other person to like us, right? So I'm gonna share kind of a story on this, and it's not a thing that happened to me, but just something that's happened to people that I know, and some relationships that they've been in. And it's not just one person. I know a lot of people that have gone through similar things, but the main thing is that they don't say no to that other person in their life, and thus that person abuses that fact, and they abuse it in a way to get what they want whenever they want, right? They know that that person will not say no, so it's always going to be a yes. Or if they're more lenient on it, like, I'm not quite sure, they're able to just push them a little bit, and then they'll say yes, right? And I feel like most people know somebody like that, where they say yes to literally everything, and you pretty much never hear them say no. And they may even self-define themselves as a people pleaser, right? And that idea of being a people pleaser, yes, you may be pleasing other people, but you're never really pleasing yourself with doing those things. And it's okay to say no when it's a situation and it's a thing that you don't want to do. And it's also okay to say no to a person that you usually say yes to. And especially if it's that kind of person that is taking advantage of that. And I think a really crucial thing on noticing that is allowing third-party perspectives to be what kind of guides you to notice those things, because hearing what other people think is very, very valuable and should not be just, oh well, they think this, but I can make my own decisions, because when you're caught up in it, you have a harder time seeing it. So it's okay to take that advice from trusted people. So yeah, and I think also that being able to say no to things is more freeing than it may sound, because a lot of times we say yes to things that we know are damaging, or we continue to go to these places or be around these people that we know are kind of dragging us down, or that are toxic, or we have bad habits that we continue to say yes to. And so learning to say no to things as simple as choosing where you're going to eat, like that's kind of where you have to start, and learning how to say no to those things first, and then you can begin to work on those more important no's of, I'm going to say no to this bad habit, or I'm going to say no to this bad person, right? So it's all kind of a method of taking it step by step and figuring out where you can start small and turning bad habits into good ones. So that's kind of my thought on saying no. And that's kind of my interpretation of that quote, and just my overall ideas on practicing saying no, and when it's appropriate to, when it's not, and making the best decision for yourself, because really, you're the best person that's going to know all the facts and is going to know how you feel. So also today I wanted to just talk about some recent stuff that's been going on in my own life personally, and kind of how a thing that happened to me today that I was able to practice kind of parts of things that I talk about in these videos. And it was a practice of controlling my emotions and not allowing myself to be weak and break down. And not that that's weak to break down or cry, but not give in to kind of the flash of anger that I had. So I had to have work done on my car recently, like a couple days ago. And I'm not a big car guy. I don't know a lot about cars. So whenever anything happens to my car, I kind of panic, and I call people that I know that would know better, right? And figure out what I can do. And my car has been pretty good to me for the past few years. But on this past Tuesday, I had been helping my girlfriend move, and on the minute before we're about to take the first load of all of her boxes to the new place, I walk out to find my car leaking. Then it was leaking coolant, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know if this is safe to drive, right? And I checked the coolant. There was still a little bit in there, and it was only leaking when the car was parked. So it wasn't actually leaking while I was driving. So there's enough coolant left in there for me to get it back home. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just have to refill it, and then I'm gonna have to figure out where the leak's coming from. Next day, start the car, tells me to turn itself off because coolant levels are low. I refill it, seems fine, but I'm like, okay, I have to take it into a shop though, and so I did. It turned out there was a crack in the radiator. I had to get a completely new radiator, and I got that replaced, and I thought I was good, right? Pick it up from the shop yesterday, and I drove it maybe twice, and on the second time driving, my engine was very loud, and I was like, it just sounded off. It was much louder than it usually is, and it just sounded off. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just because the new radiator's on there, maybe something like that, right? And then today is 3 months with my girlfriend, so we were doing some special stuff, and we went to a chicken place that we've been wanting to go to. So we went there, and I'm pulling it out of the parking lot. The car's on for maybe 20 seconds and then completely shuts off. And I kind of panicked, and there was a surge of just fear and anger, and I was so done with dealing with issues with my car that I was just so frustrated. And I call my parents, figure out what to do with the insurance. We have roadside assistance. We get that all figured out. Get it towed back to the same shop. I let them know, hey, like I just had this in yesterday. Car just turns off. I don't know what's going on. And unfortunately, it'll be there all weekend because the shop's not open on weekends, and they'll have to look at it on Monday. So I don't have a car for the weekend. But there was a moment right after it happened that I kind of had that feeling in the back of my throat, like I was going to start crying. But it wasn't just a feeling of sadness. It was more like angry tears, and I was just so frustrated that my car just continued to be an issue for me and a source of stress. But I took a deep breath, and I thought about, okay, me being upset about this isn't going to change it, right? And I just need to do what I can, which is get it towed, get it taken back to the shop, and figure out what I can do. So I did that. I did what I could, and really, I couldn't really have done much more. So that was a good reminder to me that I do have control of those things. And so in a way, to tie it into the quote, I kind of was able to say no to myself of kind of giving in to those feelings. So yeah, and of course, if anybody listening is a mechanic and might know what's wrong, might know why a car would sound a lot louder after getting a new radiator in, or why it might have shut itself off, or if the cooling system is screwed up, I don't really know. There's no there wasn't an obvious problem that I could tell you about, but yeah. So, but we're still good. Luckily, I can still walk to work. I can still walk to school. Everything is walkable here for me, so it's not a pressing issue, but definitely just a little bit of a source of stress. So yeah, but that's really all I have to say for today. I hope you all are doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.